Why is XRP so special? You give me 10 minutes and I will lay it out for you in this video. Let's get into it. XRP is at $1.46. There are a lot of people that are really excited about this current pump and what's fueling it. We're going to talk a little bit about that right here, right now. I found this great video that was put together by Mr. Man, has all kinds of great clips here. We're going to really build the story of why XRP could and will be adopted by central banks globally, and their technology with their stablecoin could lead to an industry-wide change to digital asset adoption. Let's play this.
Stablecoins in the digital economy. But let me just focus on stablecoins first. If your question, then we can zoom out to that. So I think currently we're in a phase where there's just a lot of inertia. So we've got dollar as the reserve currency in what I would call the real world. And so a lot of that's just kind of carrying over into the digital space, in the blockchain space. And I think that explains a lot of why US dollar stablecoins are so dominant. I don't think that's going to last forever. I think that's, we can ride that inertia for a little bit, but fundamentally, like, what makes a currency influential in the long term? It's got to be trusted and it's got to be used.
Yeah.
And those are related, right? It's going to get used if it's trusted. And if it's trusted, it gets used. And so for trade and finance and reserves, that's the story, right? The reason why the dollar is so trusted and used is because we've got strong rule of law here in America, and we've got a strong economy. And so those things kind of feed each other.
Really quickly here, when you look at the global currencies, right, there's of course China, there's the UK. These currencies, like the yuan, 90% of the yuan is actually in China. It's not used for trade globally, right? And I know there's a lot of people out there that think the dollar is going away. Let me tell you, not anytime soon. I would be shocked if the US dollar isn't still the supreme currency in 10 years. Now, there is a possibility of a cryptocurrency like XRP coming in, and that starts being used and adopted for global trade, as well as money transfers, central bank digital currencies, stablecoins, you name it, tokenized deposits, right? That's really exciting. That's $20 trillion in the US if they tokenize all the cash. So there's not another country that can really challenge the US dollar currently. What are you going to use? The ruble, right? That's in free fall. The Russian economy is in collapse, right? UK, they've made some pretty bad decisions the last 10 years, right? Brexit, that was a pretty bad fucking decision, right? So the US is still king of the hill, all right?
Others was like the rise of other CBDCs. So I do work.
I didn't mean to piss anybody off with the Brexit comment, but it just, my aunt, God rest her soul, she lived in England. She was from Ireland. Her name is Irene. I really miss her. She voted for Brexit. And then years later, we were talking about it, and she says she really regretted it. She said a lot of her friends did as well. I think that shut down England to a lot of trade. But hey, smart people can get into office and start changing things, and I hope they're going to turn it around there.
In the US, we work with the Fed, and we work with a number of universities that also work with the Fed. And
well, so when XRP was created, this actually was created before Ripple existed. The creators of XRP decided there'd be 100 billion units because they saw it as rather than having a smaller number with a very high price, they saw it as something they wanted to be effectively a global reserve currency.
So let's just sort of think about this. You've got a bunch of different tokenization systems, and ideally you do want different countries, you want global commerce. Wouldn't you need a central bank, sort of one central, not necessarily reserve, well, sort of like a reserve currency where everybody could exchange their tokenized assets and trade them? Wouldn't that require one central bank currency to sort of settle all that out? That one that everybody recognizes and respects?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the benefits of tokenization depend on there being a settlement asset, right? And, some people say that stablecoins should be a settlement asset. I think that is a terrible reason because of all the fragilities of stablecoins that I've testified about before. So I really think that the settlement asset has to be some kind of central bank money, ultimately.
All right.
And if you want that on the ledger, it's probably going to have to take the form of some kind of central bank digital currency. Now, this doesn't have to be a retail product, and I want to emphasize that because I'm not sure where I sit on retail central bank digital currencies, but a wholesale, the plumbing, central bank digital currencies, something like that would be needed for.
But obviously,
Hold on. If you don't know what wholesale and retail, so wholesale is central bank to bank, right? This is the network that central banks use to settle trades, settle transactions between just the backside, right? The plumbing of the central bank and all of the banks that are connected to the central bank. The retail, right, product would be a forward-facing product that me and you would use and businesses would use. So we could go into a business with that, whatever that product is, and buy goods with set, they're saying that stable coins, US dollars probably isn't the answer here. Maybe it's a cryptocurrency that the central bank decides to use to put all of these assets on and settle instantaneously. Like that is the goal here, right? The goal is to capture as much value as we can. And the XRP ledger is primed to do that. They have been at the forefront of all of this innovation for the last 10 years. Central banks trust Ripple, right? Banks all around the world, custody solutions, right? Insiders, they all trust Ripple's technology. And so it's not crazy to think that Ripple and XRP were put through this 3.5 year long, court case to give XRP the clarity that it needs to flourish in the United States. Now, let me be clear. The Trump administration is probably the only administration on earth that would greenlight something like that to happen, right? I could see a deal to be made there. He's very transactional. And I do think if there is any time, now is the time.
If the Federal Reserve Bank is not allowed to operate in that space, it's going to be a central bank, some other central bank. It won't be ours. It'll be, EU or China or some other central bank that'll be the settlement, the central bank currency of choice.
Yeah.
Now, rising above that, we have some international reserve currencies. So you have reserve currencies that are also recognized as assets by multiple countries. There are several of those. And so for a transaction to take place from country A to country B, it's not just a matter of two currencies sort of coming together. It's a matter of exchanging from the originating currency into a reserve or a recognized international currency and then back out again. And this is primarily true in developing markets, in developed markets where the country's currency happens to be a reserve currency. Well, there's essentially only one exchange that takes place, or the recipient is willing to accept the reserve currency.
Hold on, let me just show you this really quickly. So you need trust in this system, right? And, there are some countries that don't want to use US dollars. There's some countries that don't want to use Great British pounds. And it goes on and on and on, right? Everybody doesn't like somebody, right? But if you had a crypto, right, a bridge asset in the middle of all of those currencies, you could go in and out of whatever currency or digital asset you would want, right? Or tokenized value that you would want instantaneously for pennies, right? That is the new system. And you need a liquidity asset like XRP. And when value starts to come on to the XRP ledger in mass quantities, that will send the price of XRP to the roof, right? If the XRP is the hub for a lot of the world's trade, you are talking about an XRP value in the high 3 to 4 digits. That's numbers.
Is willing to accept the reserve currency. In the digital world, the question that you asked is quite pertinent. In the digital world, with two countries having a central bank issued digital instrument, how does that exchange happen? Now, the way we see it is that for that exchange to happen in an efficient way, number one, central banks have to participate. So this is not an exercise with just the private sector trying to make this happen. The bilateral nature of two central banks that are in the payment flow have to participate because they become ballast, basically underwriting their own currency on what we call or what we would think about as an international cross-border bus. Once they are the ballasts on this cross-border bus, private sector participants can participate because they're essentially regulated by their in-country central bank, and the rules of the road are pretty well defined. And so there can be a direct connection between private sector participants in country A and private sector participants in country B. In the middle, there has to be an automated mechanism for the exchange to take place, meaning country A's originating currency gets converted into an exchange currency, and country B then subsequently turns it back into the local currency. And this whole process can be automated as long as the security boundaries of the bus are secure, so that the liquidity or the the transaction within the bus can be ensured, exchange from A to B, A to common currency back to B can take place. The participation of the central banks is what provides the ballast on this bus. Once central banks are participating, the ability to execute from a CBDC in country A back to a CBDC in country B becomes eminently doable. The technology then that allows this to happen has to be essentially adopted by the central banks. And this is what e-currency focuses on, is to really allow central banks to get up to par on the technology such that the private sector participants, whether that be commercial banks, e-money operators, payment service providers, or even new entrants like some of my colleagues can then participate on it to allow for this cross-border thing to happen. I want to go back to the original point I made when I spoke earlier, which is eliminating the risk components, the settlement risk component, the counterparty risk component, and ultimately reducing the amount of liquidity needed to execute a cross-border transaction is what will bring the cost of cross-border transactions down and the risks associated with cross-border transactions down. So that's what we try to enable.
Okay, so you need trust in this system. If you take a look at what technology central banks have been piloting, testing, and some adopting, you know that Ripple's technology using XRP is at the top of the list of a lot of these countries, right? If you look pound for pound, dollar for dollar, Ripple's technology with central bank digital currency is the top of the list, right? I'd say that Quant is very, very close in there. And I think Quant is going to be widely adopted by central banks too. But the king of the hill right now, to me, is XRP. Let me know what you think down in the comments.
I want you to think about this report in two ways. First of all, it's just a wake-up call for central bankers that we are gonna live during the green transition in an environment where necessarily there is gonna be pressure towards higher inflation. Because we are going to live in a world where there are going to be a series of supply negative shocks that are going to push up the Phillips curve. And in an environment where there is going to be more volatile inflation. Now, how to respond to that? Well, in part, this inflation is necessary for the transformation. And so, first thing is that we have to be aware of the fact that if we are going to fight inflation very harsh, there are going to be much larger drop in activity cost in terms of employment than in normal times.
Joining the team here, our work on Phoenix, which continues to be in kind of alpha/beta. And
all right, I'm going to get hit on YouTube with that one little clip. F my life. All right. Also, I wanted to show you this too. XRP holders, the video lets you know what's about to happen. This is a reason XRP is the only digital asset with clarity.
The Federal Reserve has a strong interest in ensuring that any stablecoin offering operate within an appropriate federal prudential oversight framework.
But when are you going to move into stablecoins?
Yes.
When?
Yes. Look, I think the stablecoin market is fascinating. Will we do or say more than that? Not today.
The Federal Reserve has a strong interest in ensuring that any stablecoin offering operate within an appropriate federal prudential oversight framework.
The potentially fast and wide adoption of a global stablecoin, potentially a global currency governed only by the incentives of a private company, is something that will deserve and will receive the highest level of regulatory expectations and will receive the highest level of regulatory expectations.
So they do not threaten financial stability or payment system integrity. We have also provided guidance to the banks that we supervise on how they should engage with their supervisors when considering use of these products. You
know, being a highly regulated institution that we are, like, we can't touch crypto or stable coins or anything like that. You know,
in terms of central bank digital currencies, we continue to speak to a broad range of stakeholders. Our research is currently focused on end-to-end system architecture, such as how ledgers that record ownership of and transactions in digital assets.
We will, and if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Are maintained, secured, and verified, as well as tokenization.
We must consider whether our understanding and computation of traditional monetary and liquidity indicators need to be re-evaluated considering new types of payments through cooperation across borders, industries, and professions, so we can develop a comprehensive and consistent approach measuring these new payment methods.
You tell me, why is XRP pumping? Is it pumping because the rest of the market, or do we have a big, luscious field in front of us that we are building on top of? That was probably a bad analogy. So listen, the freeway lanes are open. The lights are all green. There is no traffic. You are the only person on the road. You can see it clearly, right? Where are we going to go in this market? Remember, we're still in a speculation market, right? We don't know what's going to happen next year, how quickly regulation will come in, and if what changes the Trump administration is going to truly make. That will have some impact on how far we can take this. But no, right now, full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Please like the video. Aloha. Bye.